Hi, I'm Ambi Parmeshwaran, host of the brandequity.com show Be Positive. In this show, we will meet young achievers who have stayed positive, stayed committed, and burst a trail in their behind by achieving professional and entrepreneurial success. Joining me today is a young achiever, Smita Murarka. Hi, Smita. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ambi. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. So let me, before I get in to start asking you questions, let me just, tell the viewers a little bit about your career. You started in media communications with brand.com. Then you moved from there to a fashion brand, Amante, and then from there to Lifestyle, which is one of India's leading department store chain. And then you moved to Duraflex, and so you moved into what I would broadly call the home decor segment. So it's been a pretty fabulous journey for the last 15 years. So before I get to your career high points and low points, as you know, in this show, we talk about challenges, we talk about failures, we talk about rejection, we talk about how to be successful. Today's young people have to be ready to face rejection, to face challenges. And so, uh, let me start by by pushing you in a time warp and, get back to requesting you to go back to where you're born, brought up, your college, school, and how you stayed positive and any stories from that time. But just to give the viewers a bit of a background of your family and college and school and what you went through, where you were a mischievous kid, where you were a very studious kid, viewers would like to know.
Great. Thank you for taking me back in time and making me actually recall. Because when you live through that, you don't realize. But it's nice to talk to youngsters and say, "Oh, you've had an illustrious life and an illustrious career." Not yet, as you said, about 17 years work experience. Going back to my childhood, so I was born in a very, very conservative sort of a background, Marwadi, from a very joint family business background in a small town in UP. And when I was about two, I moved to Bangalore, which was a town then, now a big city, but a town then, but a very cosmopolitan, down south kind of a town, which not many knew then in up north, right? So I had a very different upbringing from where the rest of my family was. When I joined work, really, no woman was even allowed to study beyond graduation, forget getting a job. So that itself was like a big deal for my background, for my community, and so on. I grew up. I got I studied in Mount Carmel College, Cottons, which is very cosmopolitan, educated backgrounds. And I also married an ad professional, a Tambram, which is again very completely different. And but without rebelling. So I always had the support of my father, my parents, I think, which is essential because it seemed very organic then. Every time I wanted to break away and do something which was different from my cousins and my family around, it seemed to make sense to my immediate family.
Let me ask, where you in, and you said you come from a very conservative family, business oriented family. Were you the only or the first girl in the family to end up doing an MBA of sorts? So how
Yeah.
was it? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Did you face any obstacles?
So I was, and that's why I really did not prepare much to really aspire to get into an IIM or some other Ivy League. It was what I could do immediately, so I didn't have to get married. That was the kind of generation I came from. And
No, it's interesting you said that. I know a lot of girls tend to do this MBA business just to delay getting married. And I know for a fact that a lot of parents are quite happy with it because it improves the prospect of getting a groom for an MBA girl. But it can sometimes backfires because the girl becomes overqualified, and then
So, yeah, so for me, it was not at all a positive thing. Everybody called and said to my parents that what's wrong with you? You're making your daughter independent. Like, who would marry her? That's the kind of community that I came from. But the same community, the same relatives, everybody has changed around. As I said, I was part of the cusp generation, which was right in between. Now they call it the Zennial. Earlier, we didn't have a name to it, but really, few of us really took that call and stood out from what rest of our peers were doing. For a working family, it was something very obvious, but first, from where I come, it was a huge step. So that was a starting point in itself. And career, of course, starting from an advertising agency, a media agency, I wanted to get into retail. So at that point,
Hold it. Since you're talking about advertising and media, tell me something about. You spent a couple of years there, right? So how was it? Any stories from there about clients or even bosses, rejecting your ideas, pushing you hard? How was it?
so
I know I know the agency you are in, and I don't think Sridhar will take it amiss if you were to tell that Sridhar was a very tough boss.
Sridhar, luckily for me, by the time I joined Brandcom, he was pretty seasoned, and the toughness had gone, and he was really nice mentor. So the timing was right for me in that sense. But let me just go back to why I chose Brandcom. So all the placements that were happening in my college were really IT companies because IT was a big thing to do, and the kind of salaries that were being given was really huge. And here I chose advertising, which we all know, even then was like a really, really low pay scale sort of industry. But I really wanted to work with a mentor like Sridhar. So pure.
Why did you give up joining IT and take up advertising? Because I've also gone through somewhat similar kind of career path. Because my first job was in advertising, uh, and I was criticized by some of my friends saying you're crazy to kind of do all this great IIT, IIM stuff and then go into advertising. So how did you pick advertising? Why did you pick advertising?
So I was very clear. I think a lot of what I've been able to do is about self-awareness. It's about what my strengths and weaknesses are and accepting it. And that came pretty early on. And, that's really the reason why I've been able to do a lot of different things. So one of the things that I knew about myself was I cannot do something just for money. While, of course, money is important to know what your worth is, but I cannot do something just for that. And software companies, IT was just something not, just did not interest me. I did get a lot of advice that, oh, jobs are not supposed to be something you're interested in. That's what you do otherwise. But that logic just didn't go down with me. So, of course, the world of Philip Kotler in marketing was very interesting. And what I heard about Sridhar was very interesting. So I was really hungry to learn more about marketing. And I was very clear if I was getting into this field, it shouldn't, come at any cost in terms of less than working with another person. It should be a veteran in the industry. So Sridhar was a big name, and that really attracted me to join Brandcom. 1 year there was a huge learning because I got to do a lot of consulting assignments, a lot of servicing, related assignments for top brands, which doesn't come when you're a management trainee. You typically get to do a lot of entry level work, right? But I did get exposure to a lot of things. Interesting. I do remember one particular case where advertising those days was about the creative team really calling the shots and making sure that servicing is kind of made to feel that they are servicing. And I've always been vocal about what I thought. So we were having a chat on the ideas, and obviously I was too young, and this creative director gets up and throws the whole brief on my face. And I had never experienced things like that because, as I said, the kind of background, I was from a very sheltered background, very different background. So that was a huge shock for me.
What happened? What did you do? This sounds interesting. Did you slap him or did you cry? What did you do?
I just asked more questions, I guess, because I was very curious. So I think I was not supposed to ask questions at my level, which was just the first year and the empty tag. So I asked a lot of questions. And these days, we encourage youngsters to ask questions, but it was not the case earlier. And the whole brief was thrown on my face, and I was really shocked. For a day or two, I could not even talk to anybody around. I was really hurt. I never felt something like that, like a huge way of being rejected. Then everybody told me, oh, this is normal in advertising. Why are you feeling so bad? What's wrong with you? So, yeah, some of those very interesting learnings of normalcy, which was considered normal then. Going to retail. So, after that, I really wanted to get into a lifestyle fashion space, get into retail and lifestyle brands. Fashion brands were completely not there in India. So the closest you could get to retail was really a department store sort of a setup. And we had just 2, 3 brands, Lifestyle, Shoppers Stop, and I was really earning to, join one of them, and I was trying very hard. So I did move to that. Luckily, then they had an international brand division where they got a lot of international brands into India. So I directly got to work on their branded division. But it was a very, very focused approach from my side. Again, a lot of advisors told me that, what is wrong with you getting into retail? Who gets into retail? You should go back to either an IT or another well-paying industry because retail was the good jobs in retail were really for food and beverage, grocery kind of formats. It was lifestyle itself.
Why did you pick retail? Was it happenstance, or did it just happen, or were you keen for a particular reason to get into retail?
So as I said, now when I talk about these things, it seems so intelligent and thought through, and it seems like, oh, I always knew the future because the categories I've worked with really unfolded themselves very well. But in my hand, I was very sure this is the way consumers are going to shop. This is like the future. Of course, I didn't articulate it in my head like that, but I knew this is something that is going to happen in the future because I always watch my age group then and the youngsters, what they are doing. And I wanted to get into those industries. So pretty much retail, that was the reason why I chose it. And women, another thing, whether it was advertising, more so retail was completely run by men. So many years back, even branded apparel for women was not available. So my project was in Allen Solly, my summer internship. And that was really the first branded apparel clothing brand for women. So you can imagine, fashion was just, I guess it was not a word that existed. It was basically clothing and categories around it.
Did you do a summer project with Allen Solly, Madura Coats that time, right?
Yes, Madura Garments.
Did you get to meet my good friend Sriram Srinivasan?
Sriram had moved on. So I had done it under Shailesh Chaturvedi. Okay. He had started Indus League, and Fazal had moved to Landmark Brands where I joined. And he was one of my other mentors. So luckily for me, I've always, had one or more person who's really been a veteran in the industry who I could look up to.
So we will come and talk about mentors in a bit. So tell me, when you moved from advertising to retail, were there some major issues you had to go through? Because people will say, what do you know about retail? You're coming from advertising. Or was it a pretty smooth transition?
Nothing was smooth about the choices. Everything, right? From being a woman, these are stories maybe we wouldn't have come out with as our generation hadn't the younger generation really put it out there. But being a woman, a confident woman from a very different background, in a new industry, which is already being led and driven by men. And a lot of those industries did operate out of real retail shop floor experience. Standing on the shop floor and selling. And a lot of people grew from there. And so there were really two kinds of people in the retail industry. One was people who've grown from the shop floor. The other are the new entrants of Niftians, which is a fashion technology background. And they were really handful and they were like the cream of the industry. There were really no MBAs over there, definitely not from advertising background. So if I can recall, probably I was only one.
So you must have had enough objection, you coming and telling things to them. So how did you manage to, any stories from there? It'll be nice to know, like that creative director throwing the brief on your face. Was there any such interesting stories which you can share about your early days in retail, of course. Then you became a veteran, but early days.
I don't think I'm a veteran yet, but thank you. I would then skip to one very interesting profile that I handled in lifestyle. So, in lifestyle, again, the group, I made sure I handled a varied role, start from sales, from handling product to brand management. And these days, this is something that, the younger generation does get a choice of if you're from a B school. But earlier, it was pretty much a horizontal movement. It was not like, you move roles so easily in new industries.
It's interesting you saying that. Let me just come in to say a few things, and I'll hand it back to you. Most industries have this clear divide that if you take banking, for instance, either you are in charge of investing the money or in charge of getting the money, right? And marketing falls somewhere in between, which is why if you want to grow in banking, you've got to get into either the borrowing side or the lending side. Similarly, in retail, from what I understand, is similar, right? Either you should be in the end of buying the stuff or running the store. And marketing somewhat falls between the two stools, and so it's very difficult. So, you managed to overcome that. So tell us about your story.
So exactly, this was the reason that I had huge aspirations, and I always thought to myself, if I have to, take a role of a leader, will just knowing marketing be enough? And would it make me really understand the business? So that's a question I used to ask myself. And every time I asked, okay, what don't you know more? And that's the department I wanted to work in. So I really literally had to really push myself, go to the management and ask for those roles, almost beg for the roles, prove myself time and again, because it was not a very organic thing to do. And luckily for me, or thankfully to all the seniors over there, they did give me an opportunity.
So it's from marketing to operations to procurement and product.
Yes.
So any challenges which you faced? You must have faced a lot of them.
A lot of them. You have to prove yourself right from scratch from day one. You're always day one, so it's even after 10 years of experience there was day one for me. So every 2-3 years, it was day one. And I couldn't blame anybody. It was my choice. So I literally had to, make sure I get up and say, this is what I want to do. So why am I cribbing about it? So it was very hard then. But now when I look back, it's an advice I give all the youngsters, right? And I tell them, and if I really think a lot of what I know and I'm able to do confidently is because I know so many varied roles. So even as a marketer, I'm able to take decisions because I know how it will impact business, how it will, mean internally to different functions.
It's interesting you make that point, and I think our viewers should appreciate this, and we hope to get a lot of young viewers here, is that if you're in the early stage of your career, probably the first 10, 15 years, right? I still call 15 years as early stage of career because, I'm looking at a 40-year time span. But in the early stage of your career, you got to move to positions where you're uncomfortable. It's very easy to stay in one particular function for a long time, and then you find that in your typecast, then you can't move, right? So I think you did a very smart thing, putting your career at risk, moved every 2 years into a new position, and then, kind of grew. Any stories from there you want to say? Someone told you, the chief designer said, I don't like your brief, and then you said, no, I want this done.
Yeah, so 2-3 things that are very top of my mind recall. One is when I was managing the whole Middle Eastern brand coming into India. So I was reporting to the team there. And they were very nice. Of course, they're my friends now. But initially, I was the only Indian buyer that was representing. The rest of the buyers were from Middle East. And they had left India where women didn't work and of course were not fashionable. So I was sitting there with 80 country representatives, and I literally had to be conscious of what I'm wearing every day because I was judged from top to down as to, not bad, you're decently dressed coming from India. So very blatant things like that. But I think what I did was take it in my stride and really take those comments very positively versus getting very demotivated and so making friends out of all the seniors out of there and sharing jokes and putting it back on them as well. So things like that, I think they're very memorable more than challenging. I think the whole trick of the trade is the ability to react in a manner that pushes you in a positive zone. While it is tough, it is something that you can grow with, and you need to take those first two moments and really push back the comments that you get. I've also been told way back in my career that you're too confident. Can you just not seem so intelligent? Because the other person is going to get very conscious of what's happening, and he'll not be able to come out of his zone completely. So please don't be confident. I mean, literally like that.
My God. So you said you had, had several mentors who kind of helped you. So, and you mentioned Fazal. So, what role did mentors play in your career growth and development?
One, if I have to say from my point of view, I would always learn from the leaders around me versus saying and bitching things behind their back. Of course, that also happens while you're working, but versus saying, oh, you know what, he's old school, oh, he's XYZ types. But I would always learn, pick up qualities, and I'd want to imbibe. So everybody has two sides of the coin. I would try and look at what's positive about the leader A. B, I always, in an organization, it doesn't have to be an immediate boss as a mentor. I think that's a mistake youngsters make. They stick on to a very same behavior kind of a role that they think they can take versus what their boss is. So that I don't advise, because your mentor can come from cross-functional, it can come from peers, it can come from somebody very, very senior who's not in your immediate interaction zone. So Fazal was one such mentor who was very senior. He was leading the whole division. But I always made sure I had a line of window of interaction with him, taking advice from him, also going to him for feedback, for negative feedback as to, I've asked him questions like, how would he see me a few years down the line and what can I change? So you really have to go out there. Yeah.
Anything specific you remember Fazal telling you which stayed with you?
There was a role that I was doing, and I always had this hunger for doing a lot more than what I should be doing at that point versus what people do. They want to do very little. So I took on a lot for my experience and for what I was capable of then, and I was not able to say that this is becoming too much for me. So that's when he called me along with my immediate supervisor, and he clearly said, "This is not going to be good for you," and he divided it. And then one month back, he called me back and said, can you see how it's unfolded? So he made sure, instead of just talking to my immediate supervisor, just doing things in a very, very CEO kind of a way, he made sure he explained to me the reasoning and then also checked back afterwards as to what's happened. So he was very interested in all our careers, and especially the youngsters' careers, something which is again very different and probably talks of strong leadership, that it's not the immediate level that you really need to take care of.
He took care to kind of talk to you, whereas you're not even reporting to him. You're reporting to, you were a skip level employee, and he managed to. So very good, very interesting, very, very interesting story, because a lot of times in this eagerness to grow your career, you tend to grab a lot, and then you find that then you stumble and fall. And so you were lucky that your mentor saw you had grabbed too much, and that he knew you were going to stumble and fall, and he stopped you and took some load off you so that you could succeed. I think it's a great lesson. Like we said, to grow, you need to move from department to department to grow. But in that desire to accelerate your growth, very often you take on too much. And then you take on too much, and if you don't watch out, you don't have a mentor, you can actually stumble and fall. Your career could have progressed perfectly well if you had not taken on that crazy load, but you wanted to prove a point to yourself or to someone else that I will do this, I'll do that, and then you fail in all the three. So I think that's a very, very, very powerful and very interesting story.
So very honestly, lingerie was also 6 years back an industry that everybody was very surprised with. Internally, my peers and my seniors told me I'm making the biggest mistake, because at a department store, this was like the dead end space that was given, the waste space which no other brand would take, or sometimes lingerie didn't get a share in the store. And I decided to take up, heading up marketing for a lingerie brand. So even 6 years back when I did it, everybody said you're mad. You're at a career growth when you can really grow horizontally, I mean vertically very well, and you're doing this totally crazy shift in an industry which is not evolved. I was very clear this is the future, because you don't have to go out there and do consumer researches to know what's happening. If I'm a woman and I know so many women and we know what kind of a product we need, that's something you can build. So similarly. Even after lingerie, in fact, when I got the opportunity of Duroflex, it seemed really crazy. And I was like, okay, I have done so many years in lifestyle and retail. I can become a business head. I can do so many things. Why would I move to something which is so different and not feel confident? Why would I do it to myself again? And surprisingly, some of my mentors pushed me into this versus other opportunities. And they said, this is something that you can totally change and you can bring your flair. And I moved just before COVID hit. So just exactly a year back, February. So you can only imagine a month into a completely new industry, completely out of my comfort zone, which again, everybody is like, okay, you've gone mad again. And then COVID strikes. So definitely the first 2-3 months, I was like, okay, I don't know what have I done for myself. Is it something right? But instead of dwelling on that fear, I really put it in the kind of effort I was taking to turn around the brand. I also shut myself to all the negativity around, the external negativity, which still exists. And what I got also was a great team at Duroflex, great leadership here. And probably those are things which now I'm consciously making, but earlier it was kind of subconscious, where I chose to go with teams and leaders where I would learn something and where I could give my best. So that's an advice too, that really it's not so much
What is
about.
it? You moved from lifestyle, which is rather professional, so-called professional management, to Euroflex, which is family managed. Has there been any transition, mindset changes, or I've heard both reports. I've heard people saying that look, it's actually so much happier working in a family managed company, and some people saying no, family managed is very difficult. What has been the transition experience for you?
So honestly, before I joined, that was a fear, because family managed also comes, as you said, with a lot of own imagery. And but when I met the team here and the MD, Mr. Matthew Chandy, who's actually very young, he's just almost my age, and he's a third generation. And by that time, we already had PE funding from Lighthouse, which has happened. A lot of professionals had joined, and his vision was very clear to make this organization completely professional and not family run. And that's what it is right now, moving more and more to a very corporate culture. So I was really sold on to the values, the kind of vision that they had for the brand. It was very, very forward thinking. It was very different from some of the established brands and other categories as well, who are so-called professionally managed. So that
So,
is I was
anything
attracted to.
new which you did? You started doing the butterfly in your stomach when you did. I think you did a terrific campaign around sleep. So tell us how that happened, and if it's okay to share some details with the viewers here.
Absolutely. So this was a completely a different world, a world of sleep, which I just knew was something that I did for a few hours every day. And, being an advertising professional, you would know that burning the midnight oil is something we are very proud of, even as marketers, right? We walk around office showing, oh my God, we've not slept and we worked so hard. And the first thing I unlearned here was exactly that, where I was told that if you come or if somebody around you is saying this, it is not really a virtue that we praise. We really want to talk to them and understand why they have not slept. So sleep is something the whole company takes very seriously. And it's very different from what I've heard and lived as a career all my life. So that was very refreshing. And the more days got unfolded, I really realized that this is something they genuinely, passionately believe in. It's not something that you just talk, as an aspiration. And also, the first thing that Matthew did was gifted me a book, Why We Sleep, which is by Matthew Walker. It's really a Bible. So things like that really help me understand and get into the skin of sleep, because Duroflex does not want to be only a product company. It's really into sleep solutions and talking about sleep.
Name of the book, you mentioned the name of a book.
Why we sleep.
Why we sleep? Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
And within 1 month of getting into this, when COVID hit, I had already got into the whole world of sleep. And when COVID hit, all of us came together and very consciously said, okay, sleep is so important, because all of us had learned to a certain extent, understood, and we were really breathing it so much that we really knew that sleep builds immunity as a team. And we came together, and some of our first campaigns were all about how sleep builds immunity. And you should focus on your sleep, where everybody was talking about food, fitness, and we're like, this is the third most important pillar. And that really became our narrative the whole of 2020 COVID. We did things which are very organic to us. A lot of that was without any commercial sense. So the first 3 months, we were not even selling. That really helped us get ahead of competition in a lot of ways, because we were not competing, we were only educating. And we were trying to genuinely pass on the knowledge. So we were, having sessions at corporates. We were getting together a group of people and explaining to them. We were doing things which was not even about selling more pieces of mattresses. But that really helped us set the foundation. When things.
Did the company these are all kind of, I know some of these mattress companies. I've met people at Kurlon. They're very conservative and very. So what you're saying looks very dramatically different from what they tend to do. Was it easy to sell these ideas internally? Were there objections?
The best thing, I think I find more value today in being part of Duroflex, because the first year of it was spent in COVID, which was the most toughest situation for any professional. I appreciate it a lot more, because even when everybody put a halt to all marketing efforts, I knew a lot of marketing people were losing jobs. Here I was joining at a leadership level, and coming from a completely different background. So it's not like I'm the big daddy of mattress industry and they know who I am, right? So completely different background, completely different thinking, and my ideas, my thinking were very different in a sense. But there was an instant appreciation, there was an instant connect to all the ideas we had, and it was very organically together in some ways. It was not like I had to sell an idea to somebody. They instantly took it. From day one of the lockdown. We were like, okay, we have to do a small TV campaign or sleep for immunity. We have to go live on Instagram with influencers, things which the company or the industry had not done.
Oh yeah. I mean, imagine mattress industry doing influencer campaign on Instagram. I think this probably has been never done before, right?
So and they were like, okay, how much do you need? I'm like, okay, a little bit of money. I'm like, okay, take more. Go ahead and do it. And it was a campaign about sleep for immunity, stay fit. It was not about here's more discount, and it's not going to increase their business. The brand's business.
How has it worked out? How are these risks paid off?
Touch wood, it's paid off really well. We've done very well for ourselves. We exceeded our expectations. We've grown month on month, and today we're a brand that has a lot more categories. We have a lot more plans, geographical plans. Everything is on the cards, and it's come much quicker than we thought in a COVID year. And it's purely because we just didn't want to only sell.
Great. So, what is now I'm coming to the last few minutes. So, can you tell in short sentence, what does it take to be a successful marketing person?
Stop marketing. Start thinking like a consumer.
Great.
I think the difference between probably a slight difference from other roles in marketing would be that you really have to get into the skin of who you're selling to. And you really have to be passionate about the industry you're in. I really believe that's the difference, at least for me, that, you kind of breathe and really portray that world and be part of that world every day. So, and you have to bring your own personality too. So while there are a lot of things, there are a lot of processes that have been set for marketing, the difference is where you bring that little zing of yourself. Don't lose your personality. No matter what advice you get, advices are to make you better, to shape you better, not to stop, what you're all about. So really be yourself and bring yourself while knowing the category and the consumer really well.
Great. So that's great. So let me just do a quick rapid fire round. Top of mind, whatever comes to your top of mind is fine. So who's your role model?
Role model overall is Steve Jobs. It's as disruptive as it gets, and I think many of us in marketing have loved what he's done. So
Okay, great. Okay, what about your favorite book?
Why We Sleep currently.
Oh, nice.
I've read and I keep rereading it. It's like a Bible for us.
Okay, great. One holiday destination you don't mind going to again?
I'm a big travel buff and there was a lot of world I wanted to see. But in immediate reality, Maldives seems like a possibility. So that's where I want to go again immediately.
Okay, all right. One fashion lifestyle purchase decision you took in the recent past, not 1 year, maybe 2-3 years, which you're very happy about?
The watch that I'm wearing, it's a Rado. It's something that when I started my career, I told myself I'll buy, and I bought this a few years back. So it's while there are many, this is the first piece that is timeless for me. And while watches may go out of fashion, but this particular piece is quite timeless for me.
You're not one of those iWatch or a smartwatch fan, right? So
I am. That's why I'm saying while it might go out of fashion, but there is a place in my wardrobe for watches. Quite classic like that.
I'm sure if people from Titan are watching this, they'll be happy because I'm still a watch fan. I'm not wearing a Timex today, but otherwise it's my Rolex or whatever. So I love watches, but I have not yet gone to an iWatch. So good. So thank you. That was good. Final advice to young marketing professionals.
Keep learning and keep on learning. Stay inquisitive and bring a little bit of you everywhere you go.
Terrific. I think that's a beautiful summary. Keep learning, be inquisitive, and take a little bit of yourself into whichever job you go to. So, Smita, thank you very much for joining us. And I think it was a great conversation, your whole journey from marketing communication to lifestyle marketing, now to selling sleep and putting the country to sleep. So thank you very much. And so thank you very much for the time and for your very, very valuable insights.
Thank
you. Thank you for being with us. And you want to say anything?
Thank you so much for doing this. Be Positive itself. It's a great platform because a lot of people keep talking about great things they've done, but without saying the positive impact of the negative situations as well. So
thank you.
Great. Thank you for having me over and making me share my stories.
Thank you. Thank you, Smita. So that's me, Ambi Parmeshwaran, signing off at the brandequity.com Be Positive Show.